If you've been wanting to know whether or not you should pull for Gunhee, how good he is, which artifact sets to use on, where you should stop if you do decide to pull, we're going to answer all of those questions and more in today's video. My name is DFree. Make sure you subscribe for more solo leveling or rise content. Also, click that notification bell so you don't miss anything we upload here on the channel. About 80% of viewers aren't subscribed, so make sure that you join the 20%. Thank you very much if you are a part of that hashtag 20% squad. Anyways, moving on. So Gunhee, really strong character. Let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing I want to tell you is if you log in 14 days consecutive during the celebration for 100 days, you will get Gunhee for free. Everyone that's done so far has gotten a copy today. So if you just want to be a collector, well, this video truly isn't for you for the most part, but maybe you're looking towards more of the enhancement-based stuff. So bear with me, I'll get to that eventually. But if you're looking for the collector piece, there you go. Easy to unlock, 14 days. However, if you watch this video like a month from now, you probably can't really rely on that information anymore because obviously we move on. So that being said, if you were to pull for him outside of that, where do I recommend you stop? 1, 3, and 5 are all big milestones on this character. 2 and 4 are also really strong, but they're more or less stopgaps. The number one place I would recommend most people stop is A1, and I'll explain why in a moment. If you're willing to go a little bit further, I think A3 is really strong. And if you're willing to go to A5, I mean, you didn't need to hear it from me. You were going to go to A5 anyway, if we're being honest. Anyways, make sure you do support me down below in the description as a Netmarble creator. I'd greatly appreciate it if you did. We're trying to get that going up a little bit higher. We're on the road to 200. The link is down below in the description if you want to support me, and I'd, again, greatly appreciate it. All right, also, I'll be giving out 1,000 soul lessons as well, so if that's any incentive, you'll get it soon. Anyway. So why did I bring up 3 and 5? 3 here. When the user uses their ultimate, it deals additional break damage. The Ruler's Aura effect is also enhanced. So there's that. Ruler's Aura we'll talk about a little bit more. And then A5. The damage of Supernova is increased further by 60% when dealt to targets that possess a break gauge. When Supernova hits a target that doesn't have a break gauge, it grants the Will of the Fragment effect to team members. Increases the user's critical hit damage by 30% and QTE damage by 150%. So the big problem with Go right now is that there's not really much need for the light team in the game right now. The only really useful light character in the game right now is Min, and that's simply because Min can be used pretty much anywhere, especially once you get that first dupe where he's given his team crit rate and damage. This is a broken ass skill. It's arguably the best passive, single best passive in the entire game. So that's where Min gets most of his value. But when you look at the content we're taking on, there's not much where you really need a where you really need a light team. Now, that was a problem once upon a time when they first started making new characters for water, right? But they fixed that very quickly. That also low-key is a problem for wind, but they just said, okay, we'll just add dual typings in all of our stuff, and wind winds up being in workshop, so wind's very valuable now too. So eventually, I assume they're gonna wait for the dark meta to happen. There's some reports that dark is gonna get a few characters soon. I think Goto may be on that team. Do not take that from me. I don't know. I just heard some chatter about Goto. Anyway, or Ryuji. Anyway, so once upon a time that was the case here. So long story short, that means eventually light will have more value than they have now. Okay. That's the most important thing to mention. In terms of a character, it's way too early to rank him, but I'm going to do it anyway. If Alicia is S tier, he is probably A-. Okay? Way too early, but I'm going to do it anyway, just to give you an example of how I'm feeling. I think he relates a lot to these characters on this bottom row, not in terms of quality, but in terms of playstyle, where he is a breaking / damage dealing / tank / support character. He scales off defense. He gets a bunch of defense everywhere. He's breaking on everything. He's got multiple support skills. He's also got a really strong support for Jinu. He tries to do damage based off the defense. He can do a decent damage. He's just never going to reach the peaks of a character like Alicia, who's made for damage specifically. You get my point? So when you're going to compare him in a lot of those facets, he's almost a jack of all trades, which is why I said I feel a similar way about most of these other light characters below Min. So that's one of the things I would like to say about him overall. However, I do think this top trio is really strong. So let's talk about the limit breaks on him a little bit further. So Ruler's Aura is mentioned down here with A3. So Ruler's Aura is triggering right here. So when the user uses Clean Sweep or Fighting Spirit, that's skill 1 and the QTE. So when he uses either of those skills, he triggers Ruler's Aura. So that's very, very strong. It increases the user's defense by 30%, and the user gains a shield equal to 20% of Gunhee's defense. So when you get down here with that third dupe, that one gets enhanced to where the user's damage taken also is decreased by 20%. So that's very, very strong, obviously. And the main hallmark other than that is the fact that, I don't know, the ultimate's picking up almighty break damage. So he's by far the best breaker in the game at that point. My only gripe with that is in most cases, I'm not trying to throw my ultimate at a character with the break gauge for obvious reasons. So that's my only gripe with it. However, that problem is rectified if and only if you've got A5. I mean, you could still sacrifice it if you want to just get the break and break fast. I mean, that works, right? But if you got A5, that problem is rectified because all of a sudden, the other characters are getting a critical hit damage bonus and QTE damage bonus that spikes tremendously if the enemy didn't have a break gauge. So you're not. So it's like if you didn't. So like if you're versus a boss, you're not getting any value out of that. So it's remedied here. So very, very nice. And then it also gets extra damage. So that increases his usability outside of trying to rely on that. So this is a very strong skill, especially when paired with Min. And I really like the trio because you have the crit-based stuff with her and the way she functions with her A5 too, and the dancer stacking, blah, blah, blah. Also the branding. I really like the design choice. I just feel like these characters need buffs to kind of make it work. Like these two, I think, need buffs to make it work just a little bit. I guess at that point, it'd probably just be Cha, right? So I'm not sure what they would do with Go. He's so brand new. I'm not sure. So A5, though, very strong. A3, really, really good, too. A1 is the spot I would typically recommend. I think A2 is really good, too, just so you can break much faster. A2 with A3, you're going to get A2 in the process, but those two together is going to make him crazy as a breaker here. So there's that. A4 will spike his damage by increasing his tankiness because he scales off of defense instead of attack. All right, let's look at... So basically, he's also very similar to Sajiu in that his skills do change to enhanced versions. And so his gameplay loop looks something like skill 2 into basic, skill 1 into basic. Skill 2 triggers it's kind of like... Basically, they're getting enhanced versions. It's kind of like loopy. You kind of look at it, you read it a few times, you kind of understand it. But that's pretty much more or less how he's going to work. And I think he's okay. I didn't get blown away in my initial testing at all for him. But I did like this skill here. So he's got a break here, which is nice, obviously. Airborne, and then Aura of Brilliant Light for Sung Jin-woo specifically. The user increases the user's defense by 10%. User gains a shield equal to 10% of Sung Jin-woo's defense. And the user's light damage increases by 10%. I really like that as well, increasing the damage, very nice. And I think that can make these two these two are insanely good supports for any light-based content for Sung Jin-woo. They're going to make it to where Sung just blows up anything if he wasn't already blowing them up for you. And I like the shield. I like the defense. So Sung can stay above that 50% threshold. That's on a lot of his content as well. All right. So outside of that, let's talk about skills to level up. I think that you want to level up all three of these skills pretty evenly, if I'm being honest. I don't think you need to level too much here. So when you level these skills, here's how things look. And by the way, priority is skill 2, I believe. Skill 1, skill 2. When you level these skills up, all it does is increase the damage. Now, he regularly wants to use the QTE, skill 1, skill 2, and then also that basic. And he also wants to use this stupid supernova. But just based on how easy it is for him to get these skills, these two have to go down the totem pole for me. I'm not putting anything in the Jin-woo one because it just doesn't really matter. You're mainly using him as a support / breaker at that point. But I think skill 1 and 2 definitely need to go up, with core attack being a really close second because it is one that's pretty reliable and gets triggered automatically by the other skill here. So those are the ones that I would be looking at leveling up for him. Now, artifacts. Dude, if you ask me for the goddamn time one more time, I swear to God. All right, so artifacts. So first things first, let's talk about the stats. Defense, additional defense. You can also look for critical bonuses, but I mean, that's mostly it. You're not really looking for much else on this guy in particular. Critical bonuses actually low-key are pretty good for him though. So yeah, defense, additional defense, critical, that's more or less what you're looking for. In terms of that, well, guess what? He's got a really good set that's automatically pre-made for this guy. and that is greed. I don't think I would put pretty much anything on him other than greed, if I'm being honest with you. And if I'm putting on greed, I'm going full 8 personally, because increase the user and their team's critical hit rate and damage. It basically makes him another support character for this team, and he's already doing support stuff. It just seems perfect for him. I could give you a handful of different recommendations, but I'm not going to. Just put on greed, call it a day. Okay, I'll give you one other recommendation if you don't have greed. And obviously, if you got like a 4-piece greed, you don't have the other 4-piece or something like that, there could be some cross matching there. That's totally up to you. It depends which side you have the 4 on. I mean, I'd imagine it's the left side, right? Charlie, thank you for the subscription as well. For the right side, I mean, at that point, what would I put? Executioner typically yields the best results, but that doesn't work on him because it's an attack bonus. You know what? I wouldn't put pretty much anything. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't put pretty much anything. I know that's not helping, but like I wouldn't really put too much else. You know what I would put? Like I was thinking about Berserker. I like Berserker. I also like the Sylph set. The Sylph set's cool. If you got A5, I kind of like the Sylph set. I kind of like the Sylph set a lot. I like it regardless, but I really like it if you got A5. You know what I'd put though, in all seriousness? Because so many of these don't work for him because they work off of attack or something. What I would put is concentration of firepower personally. That's what I'm going for. Or hear me out. If you happen to have 4 greed, you can go 4 greed right side. And guess what? 4 solid analysis left side, baby. No, I think you do toughness left side. 4 left side toughness. Destroyer, anyone? No. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I mean, so many of those other ones just kind of don't work for him. You can also do outstanding connection right side if you have to do that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really doing much else. Solid analysis is also the closest to greed overall in sets, so you could look at that. Or like I said, I would look at toughness. You could also look at Warmonger because it does increase attack and defense. That would spike his damage a lot because of the defense bonuses. Low-key, Warmonger is pretty good. But like I said, I think greed is just perfect because of crit bonuses. He's already doing crit stuff. The team does crit stuff. It's just made for him. So that's more or less what I would do. So to summarize, also his weapon's pretty good. To summarize, is he worth pulling for? To answer the big question, currently, I don't know that he is. I don't know that he is. Does that mean he won't be in the future? Of course not. Of course not, right? Of course not. They'll find a way to make him useful. I just, if you're not using him as a Sung Jin-woo support, I'm not so sure you need him. So here's the thing too. They did add that extra like Scorpion fight for what, encore missions, I believe they're called, right? I always get them mixed up. But that new Scorpion fight to farm the level 75 gear. I used him there. I mean, his support was what was helping. He himself wasn't really providing much. Aside from the couple of times they broke the break gauge out, that's where he's useful. But at that point, I could also use Baek Yunho. You can use Baek Yunho. Seriously. And Beck also has a little bit support, and I don't think he does much else other than the defense down, but that's still huge. I'll take it, right? It's not anywhere near as good. But Beck with defense down and greed, I'll take it. I mean, you can make that work. It's not comparable, but it works, right? So that's more or less my issue with him. So he's kind of interesting. Like I said, this one here, the user's defense goes up when fighting spirit or heavy attack fighting spirit hits. The light damage dealt to target increases by 5% for 15 seconds. I assume this isn't a debuff on the opponent, just a buff on himself. If it is a debuff, that's really strong, by the way. So all in all, though, I'm not sure that he's necessarily worth it. I think he's strong. I think he's got usefulness. I think he's valuable. But I think his best days are yet to come. All right, guys. Oh, by the way, here's a fun little tidbit. He's the first male character released since global launch. This game had Choi released on a separate banner, Silvermane Baek Yunho released on a separate banner, but those were pre-global launch. Those happened in early access. I believe global launch happens with Cha Hae-in. Man of culture, baby. So yeah, it's been nothing but original characters and females over it. Original character females, my goodness, that's all it is. So literally, good lord. And then Yu Su-yen is like the only one, right? So yeah, if you want to pull for him for that reason alone, go for it. All right, guys, I'll see you all next time. Once again, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want to see more videos like this, like our stream where we did our summons, that's clickable on the screen currently. Support your boy in the content creator program. Bye.